All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our education night. My name is Chuck Callis. I'm here with Mallory Hodden. And this is just a quick intro into what the topic is. We'll have more intro and then more speakers. Generally, we're going to cover 504 plans and IEP plans as we prepare to send our kids to school or back to school. I have 2 3-year-olds. They'll be doing all this stuff for the first time. I'll be going through this stuff for the first time, so I really look forward to all of the presentations. Mallory, you want to talk a little bit about how we have divided up the evening and what people are going to hear?
So I'm Mallory. I have a 5-year-old with cystic fibrosis. We are doing it, we're doing tonight in 3 different sections. We're doing kind of like a ages 0 to 5, preschool / daycare. We have a presenter here who is a teacher who's going to be talking to us about 504 plans. And then we also have a presenter, Seth, who is a student with CF who's going to talk to us about himself and taking ownership over the education process.
So I guess without further ado, we're going to...
So I'm Beth, and I know all of you. I'm a social worker. And Dr. Schellhaus had also wanted to be here tonight, but he's actually in the process of moving, so he's unable to come. But he sends his warm regards to everybody, and he'll be here next time. So collectively, we decided that this was a very valuable topic, no matter what age a student is. 504 plans and IEP plans are great for our kids with CF and when they're in school. Just briefly, and I'm sure our teacher can speak more intelligently to this, but your 504 plan is for an individual who has a health condition, and an IEP is an educational accommodation or a plan for someone who has an educational or learning disability. So you can't have both. Then IEP is more encompassing than the 504. So if you have a medical condition and say dyslexia, then you would just have an IEP and it could accommodate all what you need. So I hear a lot from parents that they maybe don't want to have a 504 or an IEP because they worry that it's going to brand their child or it's going to follow them, and the negative connotation that goes along with that. It really doesn't have any negative connotation with it. It really is just to support the child and make sure that they're getting everything that they need at school. Some parents decide not to get a 504 because the school is already so supportive and accommodating, and I always tell them that that's fine as well. I don't ever force someone to get a 504 and IEP, but it's just something that I will bring up regularly to talk to them to make sure that they understand the rights that they have and what that looks like. Because if you've never had a child that needed an IEP or 504, you're probably not familiar with the process. So, without further ado, I will pass it off to Mallory, who's going to talk to us, like she had said, more about like the 0 to 5 age range, speaking from experience.
Thanks, Beth. So, as I said, my daughter is 5, so we're just exiting this period right now. She's about to start kindergarten in less than a month. I know most of you have children who are older. However, hopefully some of the things that I say might be helpful. I don't know. This is our experience. It's by no means what I'm saying that you should or should not do. It's just what we did and how we kind of went through the process of finding a school and making sure that that school was willing to work with us on the accommodations that we needed and were asking for. Did everybody get a handout that I threw in the back? Just because we don't have it up on the screen, so obviously the first step is choosing a school or daycare. For us, that was an initial meeting and phone conversation with the school and the director. I actually looked at 11 different preschools, which sounds insane, but I wanted to meet with all of the directors and make sure that they, like I said, were willing to work with us. And I did find a couple of schools after I spoke with them that I could tell right away we're not going to be a good fit. For example, one said that they needed to contact the Center for Disease Control to make sure that a child with CF could be in school. So I knew right away that that was probably not the best school for us. So I spoke with the administration and the directors to understand the policy and procedures that they had in place already for children with medical special needs. And then I just did a very, very basic explanation of our asks, of what we would be asking of a school to see if they would even be open to it. So for example, what's their policy on hand washing? Do they have a sick policy in place? What's their policy on medication? Is it a requirement for them to keep the meds in the administrator's office, or are you allowed to keep them in the classroom? Do they daily clean the classroom and toys and sanitize the environment that the children are in? So all of these questions were just basic things that I was seeing if they would even be a good fit. Once we picked our school, we set up a meeting with the administrators, our teachers, and my husband and myself. And this was our opportunity to basically explain what CF is, give the teachers the overall picture of CF and what we were expecting of them and what they were expecting of us. One thing that we did that I think was really important, again, for us as a family, maybe not you, but we explained our child's history. For us, our daughter has really significant GI issues, so we wanted them to understand why it was really important for her to take her enzymes, why she needed extra time when she ate, why she needed to eat all of her lunch, things that were very specific to her. We walked through the daily routine of CF, specifically what we would be asking the teachers or administration to do. For us, the only thing that we were asking them medically was to administer enzymes, but I know families who take their best to school, and I know families who take G-tube supplies to school. So it's basically just what your child needs, and making sure that the lines of communication with them are really open. And then lastly, in that introduction to CF meeting with the teachers and administration, we went over specifics that we would be asking of the teachers and admin. So for example, stringent hand washing, daily sanitizing of the classroom. I think I bought Costco out of their Clorox wipes like several times this year. Keeping enzymes in the classroom, keeping a close eye on the class for illness, notifying us as a family if there were any illnesses going around the school or the class. For us, hydration is really important, again, because our daughter has GI issues, and this is something that has been really important. Always having a water bottle on hand, extra time to eat, bathroom breaks, etc. There are certain things that we asked that maybe that some parents wouldn't feel like they need to ask. We asked that if they did any gardening or spray bottles or sponges, that Palmer wasn't involved. So, but I know not everybody feels that way. This is just our specific things. And then lastly, what we did right before school started, the week of school starting, is the director of our preschool sent out an email to the other parents in our class. This is not something that everybody feels comfortable with. It was something that our director actually approached us and asked us if it was something that we would be interested in, and we said yes, because we are of the opinion that the more aware people are, the better. And we also really, really strongly believe in educating people. So not only was it beneficial to Palmer for us to have this email sent out, but we felt like it was beneficial to the CF community because most of these people had never even heard of CF. So in the email, we just explained what CF is. And our director is really great. She allowed us to write the email, and then she just made sure that it fit in with what they would send out, and sent it out coming from us. So we explained what CF was and what it meant for our family. And we kept in mind that this was the first introduction to CF for most of these people. Something that's really interesting that we didn't do the first year but did subsequent years is we always specify that it's genetic and not contagious, because we had a couple people ask that question, which, whatever. Yeah, ask parents to be cognizant of sending their child to school sick, and what this could mean for your child. We found that a lot of parents were not only cognizant, they were extra communicative with us about it, because they were like, just want to let you know, so-and-so has a runny nose, we're keeping him home from school. I did not ask them to do that, but that was really sweet, and I felt like it was helpful so that I knew that the parents were on board. And like I said, basically asking other parents to buy in and be aware. What we found, or what I found, my husband and I found, is that most of these parents want to learn, and they are very interested, they're very curious. So throughout the year, we keep clear lines of communication about our routine treatments or med changes with the teacher. Communicated about doctor's appointments, antibiotic courses, food intake, and general needs that change throughout the year. And like I was just saying, parents will have questions. They always do. But we used this as an opportunity to educate the other families in our class. And most, if not all, parents will be curious because they want to help and or get involved, as well as educate their own children. We found that a lot of kids were going home and saying, Palmer takes enzymes when she eats every day, and the other parents would come to us and say, my child pretends that they're taking enzymes before they eat. So it's, they want to be able to educate their child on what enzymes are and kind of help them understand a little bit better why Palmer does what she does in the classroom. And then last but not least, the transition from year to year. Once you've completed a year, think about how your child's teacher can help you transition to the following year. What have they learned from you or your child that they can pass on to the next teacher? And set up meetings early for your child's upcoming teacher and invite your current teacher to join the meeting and provide input. So as I mentioned, we're going on to kindergarten this year. Our teacher from preschool is actually coming to our new school to meet with Palmer's kindergarten teacher, which I think is really great. And she offered it, and we gladly accepted. So again, I think teachers and parents want to buy in, and I think the more information that you give them, the better off you and all of us are. Any questions?
Have you ever sent a whole vest and done treatments at school, and how did that work out?
So I have not, because Palmer was in school from 9 to 1. So even when we were on extra treatments, we would do it as soon as she got home. There were a couple of times that I kept her home from school because of treatments, because I wanted her to do it earlier than 1. So a couple of people that I know have done that, and their kids go to full day preschool or full day daycare. And they said that the most important thing is educating the teachers on how to do it, obviously. But usually in preschool rooms or in a daycare, there's more than one teacher. So one of the teachers can take out the student and administer the treatments and then go back in. The parents that I've talked to have said it's relatively seamless, but it just takes a lot of educating and pre-planning, like putting all of the nebulizer pieces in a Ziploc baggie and labeling it and explaining like your hands need to be really clean and you're touching these and all that kind of stuff. But overall, they've said that they've been happy with it. I also know another mom who her daughter was in kindergarten this year, and she took the vest to the school a couple of times for treatments in the middle of the day. So they had a room, they spoke with the administration and had a room separate from the nurse's office that they could go in, and she brought her vest and they did her treatments, and then she went right back to class. And that's one other thing that I didn't mention. For us, it was really important to have Palmer's meds in the classroom because we didn't want her to have to leave the room to go to the office to take her meds and then come back. I used to be a teacher in CMS, so I know what happens in a nurse's office and what goes in and out of there, and I didn't want her going to the nurse's office to be exposed to everything that was going into the nurse's office. So for us, it was really important that she was able to have the meds in her classroom. And that was actually one of the main questions that we had when we were choosing a kindergarten was, are you going to allow her to self-administer? So for us, again, that was really important.
In response to your question, there was one family in particular, they have a 3-year-old, and when she had increased airway clearance when she was sick, took the vest and said that she'd never been so compliant because she was so proud of her vest and got to talk to all her little friends at school about it. So they said it was like perfect, that they wished that they could do a vest treatment all the time there because like she went right ahead and did it and didn't have any problems doing it. She just loved all the attention that she got from it. So. But I think when you get older, in the older grades, it's a little bit different, and there are some other options, like the pickle, the acapella, the aerobica. Because you just don't have as much time. When you get middle school, high school.
So next, we're going to have Ms. Guzman, who is currently a teacher, leaving an assignment in elementary school, I think. But definitely some experience on the administration side.
Yes, so I've been a 504 coordinator before. I've also been part of a 504 team in a different county. I was teaching elementary school and now I'm going to middle school, and I did middle school before. That being said, you have some handouts in front of you. One is a fact sheet, just to kind of give you an overview of what 504s actually are. And one that's about Every Student Succeeds Act. A public school, and even a public charter school, has to assure you that your child is going to succeed no matter what is going on. So that being said, you're going to encounter a lot of people that don't know what you're talking about. Ms. Pressler was my very first case. And I had been teaching for 12 years. And I had heard of CF, but I really didn't know anything about it. And so having that meeting, like she said, at the beginning of the year, she sent me also a video and some links of articles and children's point of view. And that kind of stuff opened up my eyes, because being in the classroom, you want them to succeed and you want them to do well, but you have no idea what they're facing every day. So having that one-on-one meeting with Ms. Pressler was very informative for me. They did not have a 504 at that time, and I remember telling her, hey, they should definitely have one because a 504 is geared towards a medical impairment. So if your child needs anything medically, they should have a 504. And you should sit with a team and sit with teachers, and it is tailored to your child and what the school can provide. Sometimes you might ask for things and you'll see a little bit of a pushback, but it's not on purpose. It's only because those teachers and those administrators know what they can provide, and if they tell you that they can't, not that they can't because they won't say that, but they'll just kind of give other options. It's better to work with them than to push them to do something that they cannot be successful with. So if you feel like there's something that your child needs to have and they need it, then that teacher and those administrators are going to help you. But if you encounter them giving you other options, it is because they're trying to make it successful for both you and the child. Sometimes I feel like some parents feel a little bit scared to say what they want, or they let administrators or teachers tell them better ways. I would suggest you're the parent. You know your child. You know exactly what they need. You know them better than we know them. We know the school system. So the best thing to do is to just say, they need this. How can we provide this? How can we be successful? So don't be afraid to be a little assertive, but at the same time know that they want to help you, that they want your child to succeed, that it is their job. They have to do it. I'm going to break this up into K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and then high school, we have a high school here. So in K2, you're going to be pretty much their advocate. So you're going to talk to your child about what they need, but in reality, you're going to be in their court. So you have to be there, you have to make sure that things are being followed, that when you implement the 504, that these things are being done, that the teacher is right on board with you. I suggest a lot of emails. I suggest, we did Remind, but there's also something called GroupMe. And those are just really easy ways to like stay in contact with each other. Hey, do you have enough enzymes? We had a little thing going on where it was like if I ran out of enzymes in my classroom, they came home in her lunchbox or his lunchbox, and then she knew to send some back. We always had backup in the building. So it's little things like that that help teachers and parents stay together. But as she said earlier, what was your name?
Mallory.
As Mallory said earlier, the biggest thing is communication. If you stay in communication with the teacher, especially in K2, things will run a lot smoother. There was a link provided of specific needs dedicated to CF, and I think that they'll be sending those out to you guys, and you can tailor your 504 for your child. Now in 3-5, things change a little bit. Because your child might be changing classrooms and going into different homerooms to do different subjects, that's when things get a little different. And you have to talk about changing classrooms. You have to talk about changing desks. You have to talk about other students being pulled in and pulled out, other rooms. So you have to make the whole team aware. It's no longer just you and one teacher, now it's you and a team. And so that same communication has to be open, that same kind of assertiveness, but kind of nice, of what your child needs and how they need it. And most importantly, I feel like keeping things clean was a big, big deal. I remember for me, after knowing what could happen to my student, it just made me very hyper aware. And even as I taught the 5th grade with another student, it just makes you hyper aware. Okay, if we're gonna share computers, we have to sanitize. If we're gonna share iPads, we have to sanitize. If you're gonna sit in this seat, but someone sat there and they had the flu, you're not sitting there today. Sorry, you're gonna have to move to a different spot. So it's little things like that that teachers have to be made aware of, because you don't think of that. In your first block, someone got sick. They only sat 2 seats away. To me, that's too close. So I would rather you sit somewhere else. Here's how we're gonna go about that. So it's that mindset of the more the teachers know, the more they can be proactive instead of reactive, and it keeps everyone safe. In 6-8, it is a totally different ballgame. Your child now has to be their own advocate. And this sounds really strange because I'm a mom of a middle schooler and they don't even clean up the room without telling them. But when it comes to their health, the teachers will be trained, they will have a meeting, they will have 504s, but they have so many children and there's so much happening that there is human error. And just because of that, you have to arm your child with being an advocate for themselves. Making sure they have wipes accessible to them, making sure they have all the things they need accessible to them, making sure they know where to go if they need treatment, making sure they know where to go if they're not feeling well, making sure that teachers know that they need extra bathroom time without having to ask, because in middle school some children don't want to draw attention to themselves. Some are okay with it. And so it really depends on your child in 6-8, but my biggest thing is start training them in 3-5. So if you start making your child advocate for themselves in grade 3-5, by the time they get to middle school, they're kind of already know what they want. And they can sit in those 504 meetings with the team and say, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. Or yes, I wish we could add this time. Or I'd rather not transition at the same time as everyone else. So they can have a say. Because once they get to 6th and 8th grade, they get to sit in those meetings. And they get to say what could work for them. Same thing goes to high school. So in high school, your child is their own advocate. And parents are backup. And so, that being said, giving them the reins in 6th through 8th is kind of a good way to empower them as well, to take control of their own medical needs, to make them feel like they have a voice, to make them feel like they can pretty much get what they need in a school. When they get to high school, they get to talk to counselors, they get to talk to administrators. Teachers will know what they need because of the 504, but typically, and this is just what I've seen before, the 504 is from 7th grade, and it's tailored to 7th grade. But now they're in 9th grade, and now they don't have the same transition time, and now they don't have the same needs. Your child has to be able to say, hey, we need to do a 504 meeting. Can I please go talk to my counselor? Go talk to them in the summer. And even though they're their own advocate, parents, don't be afraid to back them up. Don't be afraid to say, hey, what's happening? Squeaky wheel, right? We all know that. If you call very kindly and say, I'd like to have a meeting, I'd like to know what's happening, then things would work a lot faster. But I'm glad that I was called to come to this meeting because I, as a teacher, had no idea. And I want you guys to know that. With the pressures of every day and all the stuff that we need to get done, we have no idea what your babies are going through or what your young people are going through. And if you don't open our eyes and educate us, then it's very hard for us to manage our day-to-day. But once you educate us, and once you let us know what it is you need from us, I promise you that there isn't a teacher or an administrator out there that would not be willing to help. Because once we know, it's almost like automatic. It was almost like I knew, and I would say, or text, or like, hey, so-and-so is sick, just keep an eye. You know, or like, hey, you know, I saw her playing with such and such, we made sure to wash hands, but they were playing in this. And so it was little things like that that I just didn't think about as a teacher until I had a child with CF. And then it just makes you aware. There's no way that you can't know. And I'm sure you experienced that with your teachers and in the preschools as well. But just, I'm here to, all this to say, IEPs are for learning specific targets. So when you ask for an IEP, you're asking for your child to be taught in a systematic manner. There used to be a discrepancy model. Schools are now turning away from that. And now they're doing something called MTSS or RTI, where they use research-based practices to develop a plan for your child to learn. All that to say, IEP is academic and behavioral, 504 is medical. So if your child is diagnosed with anything medical, you want a 504 to begin with, because that assures you that the playing field will be leveled. So if they need anything medically to kind of just make things normalized for them, you need a 504. Even if in the future they become IEP, you want to make sure to empower them with a 504. So if they have anything medical, just go ahead and ask for one. It doesn't hurt. They are modifications to a classroom and accommodations in the classroom. So you're going to hear those things a lot. And we put some links for you guys. I know that I kind of gave you an overview, but if you need anything at all, please reach out to your 504 coordinators at your school. Please reach out to your administrator, because 504s are federal. They don't look the same in every school. They don't sound the same in every school. They don't even offer the same things because they're tailored to your child's medical need. If your child has an impairment, then your child gets a 504, and it's tailored to them. Now, a 504 can be changed at any time, which is not the same as an IEP. So if something is not working, guess what? You get to call. You get to say, hey, I've noticed that this isn't working. Or I've noticed this works great, but I want to change it. You don't have to wait. You can ask for a meeting, and whenever they have the next available time, you guys can get together as a team and change it. With an IEP, there has to be a specific amount of time because it's systematic instruction. So those are the two differences. IEP is academically driven and behaviorally driven, right? It's a systematic way to teach your child. A 504 is medical. So anything they need to level the playing field because they have a medical need is fair game, if the school can provide it. Does that make sense? So I don't want to tell you guys, hey, my child needs a pink elephant. You know, we're going to look at you like, that's great. You know, how can we help you with that? You know, so when you see stuff like that, it's only because they're thinking school-wise, how are we going to get them a pink elephant? Where do you get them from? And you know, so if you see that, don't get upset. Just say, hey, I've noticed that they have them at Target. And it's a stuffed animal. You know, and so then they'll calm down and they'll be like, yes, sure. So just remember, we all want to work together. And most of the time, if you get pushback, it's because they don't know what CF is. If you educate them and you tell them exactly what is going on, I promise you that it'll stay in their minds and they will do whatever it takes to make your child succeed. Okay? Do you guys have any questions?
Next, we have Seth. Do you want to come up? Seth, you're going into your junior year?
No, I'm going into my freshman.
Oh, I just upgraded you. I know you were having a birthday sometime in July. So Seth is going to be a freshman. He's just turned 15. What school do you go to?
I'm going to Myers Park.
And he's going to be going to Myers Park High School.
All right.
So we were very excited to bring him in and have him share his story and give an opportunity to people to ask questions from his as well. So Seth, take it away.
All right. So I was born CF, obviously, is why I'm here. And I didn't actually get diagnosed until I was 2. You know, ever since I was born, there's been a lot more innovation with some of the CF stuff. Before I was born, I think Pulmozyme became a thing. I think Toby Myerson, I'm not sure if y'all know what this is, but it's just a drug that's been helping me out. It helps loosen up all the junk. For the most part, CF's been like a pretty big, it's been a big deal, obviously. And in school, it's the teachers do a very good job, the staff, all of that, especially the nurses. I've always gone to the nurses to administrate stuff. So if I need to take Creon or enzymes, any of that, I go to the nurse's office because I'm just afraid of losing all of it. Everything was really well taken care of. I was always well represented. Never really singled out, which is something that I was worried about. But you know, they made sure that I wasn't ever singled out or wasn't ever the only person who got to do this, that, or made it subtle at least. All the teachers do a very well job, a very good job, excuse me. And I don't know, it's hard to give them enough praise because their jobs are hard enough as it is and put this on top. Let me just say you're gonna have your work cut out for you because it's a lot to keep track of. I have CF, I also have CF related diabetes, so I got that cherry on top. Let's see.
When you were in school, did you feel open to share with your peers or other people about having CF, or can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I didn't tell everybody. I just I'd have my close friends. They'd be like, "Hey, why are you going to nurse?" And I'd just kind of explain. I'd be like, "Hey, my lungs don't really work that well, nor does my pancreas." So I give this obviously I'm not going to go into all the jibber jabber of, "Yeah, I was born with CF because I have this, that, and the third." And I just gave them a big lump sum of what I had to do. They don't know everything, but they know enough, is what I'll say.
Are there any advantages that your friends know that you have CF?
Oh my God, yes.
You can eat.
I had a test. I had to go to the nurse's office conveniently. I go to the bathroom. I try not to take advantage of it, but if I do have to go, I will,
Need a breather.
Yeah. Class is getting a little bit boring. It's a little break every once in a while.
I have a question for you. So I know a lot of times at school the lunches are really short. Did you ever feel like you didn't have a chance to finish your food, or did people ever notice that you ate maybe more than other people? Because my daughter is young, but people have already commented to her, "You eat a whole lot more than me." Has that ever happened to you, and does it make you feel weird?
Well, I said, I go to the nurse's office to administer stuff. So if there's ever an emergency, a kid hurt his arm seriously, and I just a little scrape or something. If let's say they fractured the arm, which I've never really experienced, but just as an example, I typically would get held up a little bit. So that's probably a problem. And okay. Normally I just get to lunch 5 minutes late on a normal day. I'm a teenager, so I just eat a lot. So it's really
normal that you would eat.
Yeah, it's not really a question.
I think you get more time.
Yeah, do you feel like it's enough time to eat?
How much time do you get?
About half an hour, 25 minutes. It's enough for me to eat. I get to eat in the middle of class. There was one teacher in my 8th grade year who had a little problem with that, but yeah, he was very. I don't really know if he understood it all, but if it was a emergency, he definitely let up a little bit. But for the most part, he was not very supportive of it.
So is that one of your accommodations that you can snack during class and stuff?
Yeah. So if my blood sugar ever went down, I got to snack and bring it back up. So.
How old were you when you were diagnosed with CFRD?
13, I want to say. So, gotta know about this.
And you had a G-tube. What age were you when you got your G-tube?
Let's say 6.
Okay.
And
Can you talk about your experience with your G-tube at all?
Yeah, exactly. So I was very skinny. I actually got it taken out recently, which is amazing. And but when I did have it, it was very inconvenient. That was probably one of the biggest issues I had personally with self-confidence. Was I wouldn't go to the pool and take off my shirt because a bunch of little kids or even some very rude adults would just question. Yeah, it's kind of the
Did you use it at school at all?
No, I've never had to use any of my equipment at school other than maybe an inhaler.
I was gonna say, did you ever do nips or anything at school?
No, it's just inhalers. So that was all that was. But the G-tube was probably my least favorite thing about CF.
But it helped you.
In the long term it helped. It was just big and inconvenient, but
Yeah.
you gotta do what you gotta do. Let's
How
see.
about working with your absences? Are your teachers pretty accommodating if you are,
Oh,
unfortunately,
I
out
haven't-
long periods?
Been to the hospital in about 3 years. All my middle school I haven't gone. So in elementary school, I missed a couple of days. About a month. About a month, and mostly I just got like my schoolwork like faxed over to me, or some of it was online. I could just get my mom's computer, do it like that. So I think since a lot of your work nowadays is mostly done over the computer or online, it makes it a lot more convenient. So you just get your password, get your username, and you get the work done. So
Can you talk about like self-management? What sort of things do you do independently? What do you still need a lot of guidance or support on? And how is that trajectory going?
There's a lot of stuff I have to do, obviously. It's really hard to keep track of it all. So one day I'll do this, that, but I'll leave out the other thing, or I'll get it backwards or something like that. It's a lot to keep up with. She helps me a lot, like a lot, like 90%. So I give her a lot of praise. Y'all have your work cut out. It's really hard to keep track of. But I have reminders on my phone. We have all the stuff right next to me whenever I'm getting my vest. So I always have it right there. I'll just start it up and I'll do my inhalers, med kit, all that. So I have it right next to me. And so that's never really a big deal. And I heard y'all talking about having to incorporate another treatment or another vest or anything like that. And mostly what I would do for my midday one is once I got home, normally you want to keep like a 4-hour span before you do everything. So I'd get home. In middle school, the latest I ever got home was like 4. So I'd do it at 4, and then I just like at 8, I'd do it again. So it never really was a big deal with me having to go in school, which was great.
Do you do a lot of cleaning of classrooms yourself, or do the teachers do that for you, or? Yeah.
If they did, it went unknown.
It wasn't something.
Yeah. I hate saying that. It just sounds so ungrateful, but
Yeah. Well,
You have to go through transition.
my son was in 5th grade this year, and we ended up putting. He knew where a box of Clorox wipes was. They switched classes like 5 times a day, and he would literally go to class, wipe his desk, because the kid that was there. So that was one of the things we did. But I would ask every now and then, just ask the teacher. She's like, "Oh yeah, he does it." So I would check in. I was like, "Is that actually getting done?" So I didn't know if you had any. You just didn't worry about that part of it.
Yeah, I've never had to do that. I come from a small town, and very small town. I come from Elizabeth City. If you've never heard of it, it's self-explanatory. Yeah. Anyways, what we did is there were 4 CFers, and conveniently there were 4 schools. Or one of them was private, which is the one my mom wanted me to go to, and it worked out. So we all spread the kids out. So one went to PW Moore, I went to Central, one went to this, one went to that. So we all spread that up. We got like the parents organized that together. Once I started gaining some weight, like if I had extra G-tube supplies, I'd give it over to them. Anything to help out other people. Are there any other questions?